I mean, well, let's don't wishy-washy about it. Is the NFL scripted or is it not?
Man, I think they got billions of reasons to have an interest in who's there.
Is the NFL scripted? And I'm going to yell it a little louder because I don't think you heard
Okay.
me. Is
Okay.
the NFL scripted or is it not?
Absolutely. There you go.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, so you're a flat earther, NFL scripted.
No, I'm
So we're
not.
going all the way that way.
I'm
All
not
the way
getting
with
into
the
all the other
conspiracy theory.
conspiracies, but sometimes when you start labeling yourself sports entertainment and there's billions of dollars on the line, I don't believe there's not some people, blowing some wind in the sail to make the boat move, if that makes sense.
Welcome to Big B Daily. No frauds allowed.
What is going on, everybody? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to Big B Daily Show, man. We appreciate it. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time. What is going on, everybody? We are live on TikTok. What's going on, TikTok? And we are live on YouTube. What is happening, YouTube? Lot to cover today. Talking a little bit of Eric Bienemy, talking a functional super team in the NBA, got college athletes, got ruled employees, man. That is wild. It could literally change the landscape of college sports as we know it. And then we'll have the open mic session as always at the end. TikTok, as always, looking for 5,000 likes. So keep tapping the screen. We want as many people in here as possible. Keep tapping the screen. And if you are in here and you're not following, please give us a follow and do yourself a favor. Click that link in my bio, the YouTube link. Come on over, subscribe to Big B Sports Talk on YouTube. Come join the chat over there. A lot of stuff you get over there. Interviews, podcast, shorts, just a lot of things that you do not have access to on TikTok. You'll get there. So we appreciate it, people. So let's get into this. So, first thing, man, Eric Bienemy out in Washington. My thing is, what happened to Eric Bienemy, people? What happened to his star? What happened to his shine? 3 years ago, everybody thought he was going to be the next bright head coach. And then 2 years ago, everybody thought, oh, well, the same thing is going to happen. And then last year, no, people were like, yeah, we're done with that. And then the next thing you know, he doesn't even have a job. How do you go from being the next great offensive mind, next guy that's going to be in a head coach, to not even having a job? Now, I think he'll end up getting a job because he's too good of a coach not to, but man, whew. And somebody on TikTok, yes, he went to the wrong place. So, and his players turned on him. His players turned on him after like the first week of practice. It was ridiculous. And his head coach did too. I'm like, come on, man, what are we doing? I've never heard a head coach come out publicly and side with his players, basically saying that the offensive coordinator's being too mean, being too tough. The hell's going on? That's how you know Ron Rivera is a horrible head coach. Just horrible. But people are saying, Chuck, you're saying he should have stayed in Kansas City. He didn't have an opportunity. It was time for him to move on in Kansas City. And I think that's part of the problem on why he doesn't have a head coaching job is because he rubs people the wrong way just because of his style. Sometimes you got to bend a little bit. You know what I mean? To be a leader of men, you can't always lead with an iron fist. It's not the same way it was 25, 30 years ago. Things have changed. People have changed. It can't just be iron fist no matter what. I'm never bending. Life doesn't work that way. And in this profession, it doesn't work that way. People have changed. You got to change with it. Nobody's saying you can't be tough. But to just continuously grind people into the dirt, a lot of people don't learn that way. A lot of people don't respond to that. I was a person that didn't respond to that. Hell, I played 25 years ago in college. I didn't respond to people constantly cussing me out all the time. Because a lot of people, and people now are resourceful. Players, kids, coaches, whatever. They understand the difference between coaching tough and humiliation. Eric Bienemy walked that fine line, and it was always on the side of humiliation while you're trying to teach. Hey, you don't have to humiliate me to try to teach me. You can just coach. So, and that's the thing. I think Eric Bienemy, I don't think he's getting a head coaching job. I think that ship has sailed. I think that ship has sailed. So, and that's the thing. You have to be able to bend as a leader of men. Nobody's saying you have to just be a player's coach and be walked all over. And we've seen some of those guys. But the main thing is you have to understand, read the room, basically. Read the room. You got to understand, be tough, be strong. But again, you can't just grind somebody into dog meat and expect them to respond. Everybody doesn't respond that way. And I know somebody on TikTok asked why. Because everybody's not built that way. That's why. Everybody isn't built for you to humiliate me. If I don't respond to humiliation, I don't respond to that. Number one, a lot of people can tell the difference. A lot of players can tell the difference between you trying to humiliate me and trying to coach me. And that doesn't mean you're soft if you don't want to be humiliated. It just means, hey, man, you can talk to me like I'm an adult. And that's what he deals with, are a bunch of adults. You can talk to me like an adult. You don't have to try to embarrass me. So, hey, Chicago, Mr. Tutt, what's happening, man? Yeah, you don't have to do that. And when you do that, don't be surprised when other adults challenge you. Don't be surprised if other adults don't challenge you. So that's part of the problem with Eric Bienemy. He doesn't read the room. He thinks it's always got to be his way or no way. And yeah, I just think the Eric Bienemy ship, as far as getting a head coaching job, that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed. So where does he go? I don't know. I would still like to see Eric Bienemy in the NFL. I think he deserves that. I think he's a good coach. Does that make him a good head coach? Maybe not. But I think you can go. I mean, here's my thing. Let me ask you guys this question. Cliff Kingsbury just got the offensive coordinator job in Washington, essentially taking Eric Bienemy's job. What has Cliff Kingsbury ever accomplished? And I know this was a topic yesterday on First Take, so I'm not trying to steal their thunder, but it's the truth. What's Cliff Kingsbury ever done that Eric Bienemy hasn't done? I mean, what's he done? He was bad at Texas Tech, got fired. I've never heard of a coach getting fired in college, getting fired up. I've never heard of that before. He got fired at Texas Tech because they weren't any good. Parlays that into getting a head coaching job at the Arizona Cardinals. Unbelievable. He had taken the offensive coordinator position at USC. All of a sudden, the Arizona Cardinals call him and give him the head coaching job. Wow. Unbelievable. And not only that, he stunk there, and they weren't any good. They weren't any good. So he's done nothing. My man Pat Cockrell said over on YouTube, says he had Mahomes. That's Cliff's calling card. He piggybacked off Mahomes. Well, I wouldn't even call it that because when Mahomes was there, Texas Tech wasn't any good. So, yeah, you had Mahomes, but you couldn't win with him. So, it's just crazy. He did all of that. He did nothing. Now he's the offensive coordinator for the Commanders. I mean, yeah, it's just wild to me. It's just wild to me. And the one thing that I can say is you look at Bienemy, okay, the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. But I think people would recognize and understand the Chiefs' offense isn't as good this year as it was last year. I think we can say that with some authority and some meaning. And Bienemy was part of that. Bienemy was part of that. So, but I think Bienemy took the wrong job. He went to that was a sinking ship. You knew Rivera was getting fired, but he thought he could go there and just turn it around. Yeah, that was a bad move. That was a bad move professionally because it may have just crushed any chance ever of him becoming a head coach. I think it was pretty much dead before that, but this crushed it. This just crushed it. But even still, it's like, I mean, and I know the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it should be what have you proven? Because like I said, there is nothing that Cliff Kingsbury has done in his coaching profession that says he is better than Eric Bienemy at anything. And yet, he got the job. So, he's got the job. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Bienemy can go to the Raiders. Hopefully he can go to the Raiders. If he can, great. Or he can go somewhere. But jobs are filling up fast, man. There's not many coordinator positions left. That might be the only one. Places are filling up fast. So, and that was the whole thing. It was just, to me, the Bienemy thing is just nuts because they said Andy Reid is the orchestrator of offense. He's the one that's responsible in Kansas City. And if that's true, okay, let's go down that list. Doug Peterson got a job because he was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Matt Nagy got a job because he was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Well, who was it? Was it Reid or was it them? All of a sudden it becomes Bienemy gets the job, then, but it's all Andy Reid. Come on, people. What are we doing? If you don't want to hire him, just say you don't want to hire him. So, I don't think, yeah, that's a good point. My man Brian on TikTok said Bienemy could end up at Ohio State if Bill O'Brien takes the job in Boston College. True. I don't think Bill O'Brien should take that job. I wouldn't. I mean, but if you want to be a head coach, you want to be a head coach. And he almost took the job the last time, so who knows? Maybe he just wants that job. He wants to be a head coach again. He wants to live in Boston. Okay, take that job. But I don't think they hire Eric Bienemy at Ohio State, though. I don't think they do that. Because if he's rubbing adults wrong, how do you think he's going to rub off on kids? He's going to crush them. He's going to crush them. So we'll see what happened. We'll see what happened. What do we got over here? Well, the run game is better this year. They just have 0 wide receivers this year. I don't know about the Chiefs. The run game is better because they're actually running the football. I think they could have run the ball more in previous years. They just didn't do it. So, imagine being a bad team with Mahomes. That's crazy. Yeah, that's exactly Mike the Ruler. That's Cliff Kingsbury. You got Mahomes and your team is bad. So, and I know it was bad defenses, but if you're the head coach in college, 65% of your job in college is recruiting good players. Defense is part of your team. Recruit better. It was torture, says Pat Cockrell, to have Kingsbury. So we get it, man. We get it. Let's move on. So the LA Clippers are dominating the NBA right now. Let's just say that. They are on a roll, 25-5 over their last 30 games. Who would have thought? Nobody thought the Clippers were going to be much. They thought, it's another super team. James Harden is finished. Russell Westbrook's not going to accept a role. Kawhi and Paul George are always hurt. And it's just going to be the same old with the Clippers. Well, that hasn't turned out to be the case. That has not turned out to be the case. So far, let's say that. The Los Angeles Clippers are looking to be the best team, not only in the West, they're trying to be the best team in the NBA. They are trying to have the best record in the NBA. They are hitting on all cylinders. All cylinders right now. And for me, I hope it sticks together. I hope Kawhi's knees stay sound. Paul George, all his soft tissue injuries, I hope they stay sound. James Harden, same thing. I want to see what the Clippers can do at full strength. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting to see if the Clippers are legitimate. Are they legitimate? Can they win? Can they keep it together? I think if they can stay healthy, they can. If they can stay healthy, they can. So a lot of people thought they were going to be bad. A lot of people just thought, you add James Harden, that's not moving the needle. You got Westbrook. How are all four of them going to play together? Well, it turns out they don't. Westbrook has taken a back seat and has gone to the bench, playing about 18 to 22 minutes a night, and it is working, people. It is 100% working. The Clippers got some things figured out. My man Pat Cockrell, he said the same thing over here on YouTube. Honestly, I thought adding Harden was going to be cancer. But boy, have they proven me wrong so far. Absolutely. I didn't think he was going to be a cancer. I just didn't think it was going to work. Too many personalities, only one basketball. I just didn't believe that it was going to work. So, but they're making it work. They're making it work. You know, they got the two all-stars, the two guys that are their best players are healthy. And as long as they stay healthy, I'm telling you, that I think that's what we all want to see. Let's see what the Clippers can do when they're healthy. Let's see it. Somebody over on TikTok, yeah, kid, Kick Rocks says Russ is definitely sixth man of the year. He's got to be up for it. He's got to be up for it. Seems like Paul George has been in the league forever. He's been in for a while. But guys we got to remember, guys get into the league early. You know, guys get into the league when they're 19, 20 years old. So we'll see. Suns are loaded. I don't know if the Suns are loaded. Suns are playing better basketball right now, though. Now, again, that's another team that's healthy. If their big three is healthy, they got a shot too. Because I don't care. Durant is still Durant. Booker and Beal. Now, when the game slows down in the playoffs, I just have a feeling not having a point guard is going to hurt Phoenix. Not having a true point guard. If you're relying on Devin Booker or Beal or Kevin Durant to be distributors, I think that's a problem. So we'll see what happens. But I like the Clippers. I like Phoenix. There's a lot going on out in the West, man. There's a lot going on out in the West. We see Klay Thompson is not doing it. Klay Thompson hadn't even finished two of the last three games. So we'll see exactly what goes on in Golden State. Do they make a move? by the trading deadline, which happens to be Thursday? Do they make a move? Do they get rid of Andrew Wiggins? Do they trade Klay Thompson? I think they trade Klay Thompson. I think because they're not going to re-sign him. No way Golden State's going to re-sign him. I think they got to get younger, fast, and I think one of the ways to do that, trade Klay Thompson to a contender. I think you got to do that. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting out west, but I know I like what the Clippers are doing. Hopefully they can continue to make it work. Just stay healthy. That's all. If you lose, you lose. But let's not you lose because your guys are hurt. That's what stinks. Don't get hurt. And I'm not blaming, again, nobody wants to get hurt. But that's what we want to see. We want to see if the Clippers can actually win this thing if they can stay healthy. So, can they get there? And the Clippers are load management kings. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But we're going to move on, people. So, this is another wild and crazy development in college athletics that is coming up, man. I don't know if anybody saw this. Kind of went under the radar. But yesterday, a ruling came out, and basically it allowed, and now it's in Dartmouth basketball team has been ruled that they can be employees of the university. A ruling came out. That's right. You heard me right. A ruling came out yesterday that is going to allow the men's basketball team to be employees. Now, because the same thing happened 10 years ago at Northwestern. The same thing happened at Northwestern 10 years ago. And what happened then was they got enrolled that they could unionize and all that good stuff, but there were so many loopholes that the NLRB, they shot it down. So on appeal, it got shot down because there was too many holes in that story. One of them being is that, they were a private institution, but they played in the Big Ten, which all the other schools were public. That was one of the things why they shot it down. It didn't work for Northwestern. This might work for Dartmouth because they're in the Ivy League and all of them are private institutions. So that's a big loophole that you don't have to overcome. I mean, it's the union. To be able to unionize, I don't know. I had this discussion a few minutes ago. I don't think that you should be able to unionize. So something's got to give with college athletics. Something's got to give. I think it's nuts. And the simple solution to all of this is pretty easy. If they just paid players, then that would be the end of it. That would literally be all anybody ever wants. They just want to be compensated. And, the whole notion that the compensation is, well, you get a free education. It's not the same. First of all, it's not free. You're sacrificing your body, and nobody's making you do it. I understand, but then don't tell me that it's free because it isn't. And then all the money that you help generate, you get none of it. I mean, come on. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? I think if this ends, now granted, there's going to be tons of appeals, so it's going to be years before anything, hell, it could be a decade before anything ever truly happens with this. But if it does, it'll be the end of college sports as we know it. Because if they can unionize, first of all, to be the biggest union that I've ever heard of, which would be crazy. But if they're allowed to unionize, man, first of all, there'll be a board, there'll be a president, there'll be all these things. It'll be for every sport. It's not going to just be a union for basketball. It'll be a union for all college athletes. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. I don't know, again, what side you're on. I'm not sure. But I know the simple solution, if they just paid them, it goes away. If they just paid them, it goes away. My man Pat Cockrell on YouTube, it doesn't mean anything at the small school level. When the big ones start doing it, prepare for college football to turn into the Big Ten and SEC being a glorified NFL G League. I don't agree with that, Pat. I don't agree with that. The Big Ten and the SEC are not a glorified G League now. So I don't agree with that. I get what you're saying, and I understand your opinion on it, but they're still playing college athletics. So they're not a glorified G League. And you could say that about a lot of other schools as well. But college scholarships are not free education. Thank you, Greg. College scholarships are not free education. And people that try to say that, I don't get how I know how they say it's because they've never participated. So they're from the outside looking in. A lot of those people are jealous. And a lot of those people just say that because, hey, I didn't get a free scholarship. All you're doing is playing a kid's game. Well, blame God for giving them the ability to do that. Okay? Don't be mad at them. It's not their fault. That's the way I look at it. It's not free. It's never been free. It's never going to be free. But this ruling, man, whew. Yeah, there's going to be appeals. There's going to be, it'll take a long time for this to happen, if it even happens. Nothing's even saying that it is going to happen. And personally, I don't think that it should. And I am pro player. I am pro giving them everything that they can get. But I'm under the assumption, and again, very easy way to solve all of this, just pay the people. Just pay them. And I know, well, everybody won't get the same. Hey, that's life. Everybody doesn't get paid the same. And if we're making that big argument like the WNBA, people will argue that to tooth and nail, and they're right. They don't deserve to get paid the same as men because they don't generate what men generate as far as business-wise. This would be the same thing. A rower at a university doesn't generate the same as what a football player does. So why on earth would you pay them the same? Same with a baseball player or a softball player or a soccer player. So why on earth do we think that they should get the same? It's just crazy. And Raymond says, what happens if they get hurt and they can't play anymore? Well, what happens now if they get hurt and can't play anymore? How would that even change anything? I guess I don't understand that. If somebody gets hurt right now and they can't play anymore, what happens to them? The same thing. It's crazy. It's crazy. And again, here's always the argument against paying college players is, well, they get a scholarship. Okay, they get a scholarship. They don't have to pay for school. Well, what if your family's poor, you don't have any money? Take out a student loan. I'm not against that. If you take out a student loan and you got to pay it back, because there are plenty of people that take out student loans to go to college, but they don't allow athletes to work. So if you allowed athletes to actually work, then I would have no problems with the whole student loan argument, because then it's all fair game. But since you don't allow student athletes to work, well then, okay, well, you're hamstringing me for me being able to make money. Other people are allowed to make money. They're allowed to work, if they're not athletes. So if you were to do that, it's crazy. That's why the whole student loan argument to me, it debunks it because they're not allowed to work. If you're allowed to work, let me work. Let me make some money. Nope, can't do that. Well, if you won't let me do that, then what? So it's, again, college athletics, it's very easy. Pay people, you move on. End of story. And there's always going to be haves and have-nots. But guess what? There are haves and have-nots in the real world as well. So we got to stop thinking that everybody's got to be equal. Everybody's got to get the same. That's not how life works. It's never worked that way. It never will work that way. The quicker that we come to that realization, the better. It's just that simple. Since when aren't student athletes allowed to work? Never. I mean, they haven't been able to work. So no, they haven't. And you're uninformed if you're saying they work during the school year. None of them work during the school year. You're not allowed to. So, wish you could get a free scholarship. Free college education ain't enough of what? There ain't enough. Wish I could get free education off of a scholarship. Okay? Sorry that you couldn't. But maybe you could have. I mean, just because you're not an athlete, maybe you could have done it academically. I mean, you're mad at the wrong people. What, are you mad at people that because they were blessed to be able to get a scholarship? It's not, a scholarship's not enough. You can't even do anything. But oh well. It is what it is. It is what it is. Let's move on, people. Open mic. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Reading this comment over here, my man Bill Kerman said he had 2 children that were offered scholarships in D1, and no, they cannot work. No, they can't. They've never been able to work. So, free education. It's not free, buddy. Sorry. It's not free. And you would know that if you were part of it. But since clearly you're not, it's not free. So, yeah, I was part of it. The housing is tricky. The housing is super tricky. Super tricky. Fully healthy Knicks team is making the playoffs. Dan, you might be right. You just might be right. They got to get healthy. I'm worried about Randall's shoulder. I'll be honest. I'm worried about that. But we'll see. But a healthy Knicks? Spicy. I like it. Healthy Knicks. So, K-State won a game last night over Kansas in overtime. First of all, if you're playing against Kansas State, don't let the game go into overtime because you're going to lose. Jerome Tang has been at Kansas State it's coming up on 2 years. And 11 overtime games, he's won every one of them. So do not go into overtime. Do everything that you can to win in regulation. Because if you go into overtime against Kansas State men's basketball team, you are going to lose. Period. End of story. So that is just a given. Just a given. So if you got to beat them in regular, and I don't even know how good Kansas State is right now. They were struggling, lost 4 in a row, and they tried to give the game away yesterday. Jiminy Christmas, just the turnovers that they commit. The lack of basketball IQ is incredible. But they somehow beat Kansas, and Kansas was on a roll, playing well. Kansas got a good team. They're not very deep, but they got a good team. But not being very deep, I think that's going to hurt Kansas in the NCAA tournament. I think that's going to hurt Kansas. So we'll see how that goes. 90% of football athletes can't even speak English after they get out of college. That's got a lot of racist and ignorancy in that, Mark. That's a lot of racism and a lot of ignorancy. 99% of athletes can't even speak proper English when they finish college. We'll just get this idiot out of here, boy. I mean, gee, many Christmas. I mean, wow. Yeah, we don't deal with that. He wanted to, if I'd have kept going, he'd have used the N-word. He would have. TikTok. You know it. I know it. We all know it. That's where he wanted to go. He was just hoping that somebody would tag along with him. He was just hoping that somebody would co-sign with what he was thinking, and then he was going there. But he's out. So what's good, man? What is good? I did play with Michael Bishop. I sure did. 97 and 98 at K-State. I was his left guard, number 73, knocking people up. Well, hold on. Wait a minute. Pause. That's not a good comment. Knocking people up. Knocking people around. Yeah. Let's change it. So, why do I need to talk about the 49ers, Jose? What do you want to talk about? You talk about the 49ers, and then we'll go from there. You say what you got to say about the 49ers, my man. Who do I have tonight? Texas Tech or Baylor? You're going to be mad, but I'm going to say Baylor. I'm sorry, Pat. I'm sorry. I think Baylor's better. I think Texas Tech is still struggling to rebound the basketball. They got them beat on Saturday. I think it's going to get them beat again. Mike DeRuler says, Big B, why did my Ravens hire a game management coach? Or why did my Ravens hire a game management coach? What is John Harbaugh there then? He's feeling the fire of the hot seat? I don't know, man. I don't know. I literally don't know. I don't think it hurts to have somebody to keep track of that kind of stuff. You know, you're a head coach, you're involved in the game. I don't think it hurts to keep track of that. But we'll see. Somebody over on TikTok saying Brock Purdy is elite. By the way, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time, Big B Daily Show live on TikTok, live on YouTube. What's happening, everybody? TikTok, keep tapping that screen. Need to get to at least 5,000 likes and 30 new follows. So if you're in here and you're not following, please give us a follow. But Brock Purdy, elite. Yeah, I don't know if Brock Purdy's elite, but I think Brock Purdy's a very good quarterback. Elite? That's saved for people like Mahomes, Josh Allen. Though that's elite. Brock Purdy's not in that class yet. Doesn't mean he can't get there, but he ain't there yet. And because elite guys, they can carry a team. For instance, if Mahomes is on the 49ers, they go undefeated. If Purdy is on the Chiefs, they don't make the playoffs. That's the difference. I like Purdy. I think Purdy's great. Matter of fact, Purdy proved me wrong and shut me up, put me on my place. All of that happened. However, elite, I think we're grasping at straws when we try to put him in the elite class. He's not there yet. So, but he can get there. Jameis Winston threw into triple coverage. That's what Jameis Winston. Okay, we're going to move on, Greg, because I don't know. Jameis Winston. Okay, let's just move on. Let's see. Texas Tech lack of size is definitely hurting them. Yeah, it is, Pat. College basketball, you got to have a little bit of size to go rebound the ball, and they don't have it. And that's what's hurting them right now. Everything they do, they play well, But when you don't have size to go rebound, whew, it's crazy. Crazy. So let's see here. So I saw this, and I'm going to ask you guys this. I put up a post yesterday about the greatest Super Bowl team of all time. And you know what this algorithm of something they put out there, some crazy algorithm, they said that the 1991 Washington Redskins, now again, don't come for me because they were called the Redskins back then, that was the greatest Super Bowl team of all time. 1991 Reds. Are we kidding ourselves? The hell is going on? I mean, they had Mark Rippon as the quarterback. Mark Rippon. I mean, there's legendary quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls on elite teams. But we're going to choose that one and think they're the best? Oh, my God. Yes, that's right. They had the 72 Dolphins who didn't lose a game at 23. And by the way, on a side note, has there ever been any team that gets more disrespected than the 1972 Dolphins? I'm not even saying that they're the greatest team, but have you ever heard of a team be more disrespected? Nobody even talks about them like they're the best team. Like, you talk about the best teams ever, they don't even come up in conversations. But yet, now granted, Bob Greasy only played half the season, but Greasy is in the Hall of Fame. But he's better than Mark Rippon. Come on. Whew. It's crazy. Why ticket prices dropping drastically for the Super Bowl? Did they? I haven't noticed. And what they dropped from $7 to $8 to $5 or $6? So that list, wasn't that list based off the DVOA? Yes. Yes. I mean, they should just throw that entire list in the trash and burn it. Just throw the whole thing in the trash and burn it, Brandon. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So we'll see what happens. We will absolutely see what happens. But man, I just can't believe that the Washington Redskins, again, don't come for me. That's what they were called back in 1991. That they somehow are the greatest team to ever win a Super Bowl. You got 49ers teams, Steelers teams, Cowboys teams. I mean, you have teams from all over. Hell, there might even be a better Redskin team. But no. Oakland Raiders. Plenty of teams that I can think of. Plenty of teams that I can think of that are better than the 1991 Washington Redskins. Again, don't come for me. That's what they were called back in 1991. So, Brock Purdy will be the franchise QB 49ers. I don't know what that means, but are you saying that he's going to be the best quarterback in franchise history of the 49ers? If that's what you're saying, Jose, it's way too early to be doing that, man. It's way too early to be doing that. So, in terms of coaching, it could be considered a top team. I agree with that, Brandon. I think Joe Gibbs is the most underrated coach in NFL history. 3 Super Bowls, 3 different quarterbacks. I think Joe Gibbs is way underrated. Way underrated. But yeah, you're right. As far as coaching, thank you. Will Mahomes get more rings than Brady because he's on pace? It's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say. First of all, how long is Andy Reid going to be there? How are they going to fill the roster? How are they going to, is the makeup, what's that going to look like? Things are going to change. Hell, Kelsey will be gone in 2 years. He ain't going to play longer than 2 years. So who knows, man? Chuck Noll gets very little credit. You're absolutely right, Shelby. Chuck Noll doesn't get near enough credit. First of all, he helped put together the Steelers, and he coached them. It's not his fault that he put together a great team. What, are you blaming him for putting together a great team? And then see, now on this list that we're talking about, this on YouTube, somebody, Darren Howard, is asking me who was number 2. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't care what any of you all say. Y'all are going to come for me, and I don't care. The 1985 Chicago Bears could be one of the most overrated teams in NFL history. Let me repeat that. The 1985 Chicago Bears could be one of the most overrated teams in NFL history. Yes, they had a good defense, but the offense was mediocre at best. I understand they had Walter Payton. Not to mention, it was an older Walter Payton. But what else did they have? Jim McMahon as the quarterback? Might as well have Mark Rippon. Willie Gault as your receiver? Come on. What are we talking about? Defense was great. Can't take nothing away from them. Although they did play a little bit of a modern offense in Dan Marino, and he picked them apart. And had Marino not choked in the AFC Championship game, they were going to the Super Bowl, and they were going to do the same thing to the Bears. But other than that, the Chicago Bears, the 1985 Chicago Bears, are one of the most overrated teams of all time. They talk about them like they could do no wrong. And I'm like, the defense was great. It was. But if it was so good, why'd they only win one title? Tell me that. They won one title. Now, somebody on TikTok said the Super Bowl Shuffle. Now Sean Finley, that's a great song. I used to sing the Super Bowl Shuffle all the time. So I used to sing the Super Bowl Shuffle. But that's my whole thing about the Bears. They won one title. You can't be, they didn't even win 2. They can't even be put into the argument of a dynasty. One title. That's it. So, I don't know. I stand on that hill, and I'll stand up there by myself if I have to. But I'm going to brace myself, and I'm not going to let nobody push me off that hill. I'll die on that one. Most overrated team in NFL history. People talk about that Bears team like it couldn't be beat, that nothing could happen to them. Well, they could. It absolutely could. One title. And that was before free agency. So it wasn't like guys were leaving and all this stuff. No. That's all they could muster. One title. Get out of here. Chicago Bears, greatest ever. Defense was good until it got figured out the next year. Then it wasn't very good. 46 defense, all them defensive linemen covering up the inside 3 guys with that bare front. 3 wide receivers, all they did was roll down a safety to cover the 3rd receiver. Okay, good. How's that going to work? Think about that defense going against today's defense or today's offenses. They would get destroyed. Just destroyed. Now, I can talk about that all day, though. I don't want to bore you. So, my man Brandon said, what are your thoughts on the Packers that won the first 2 Super Bowls? Man, I don't know. They were great. Don't get me wrong. They were great. But I'm not going to put them in the same realm as one of the greatest teams of all time. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. They were great. There's no denying it. You can't deny it. And for their time, I'm not a type of person that says, okay, well, what about if they had to play today against these players? Well, these guys would be different. They didn't have the same physical, they didn't have the same training. health. They didn't have the same type of stuff. So, no, the plumber's argument, no, I don't do that, bro. I don't do that. People are ignorant that use that argument. Oh, there were just a bunch of plumbers. And not to mention, they probably were because they didn't get paid as much, so you had to have a second job. But I don't just say they're not any good because they played in the 60s. Because, again, those same guys in the 60s, given the technology of today, how would they be? First of all, I think a lot of them would be 30 to 40 pounds heavier, faster. So, who knows? Who knows? They didn't have the same stuff, and they played much harder style of football. I don't know if they played a harder style of football. They played different, but they didn't throw it as much. But I don't think it's harder. They weren't as advanced. I know that, but that's not their fault. I mean, things hadn't caught up yet. Things progress. But yeah, I'll never disrespect the Packers or anybody like that. You can't disrespect people. I mean, you can. I just don't do it. So, Montana is the GOAT. Okay. Montana is the GOAT, then Brady. I think you meant to say that Montana is the GOAT over Brady. I agree. So, I agree. So, the hit on Montana to end the three-peat by, what was his name? Marshall from the Giants? I think it was Marshall. That basically knocked him into a new decade? Yeah. I remember seeing it when it happened. Hit him from behind. So, all-time favorite Steelers defense? I mean, I don't know if I have a favorite. That's my whole thing. It's not a favorite. The best, I mean, it's hard to say that a defense is better than a defense that had like 7 Hall of Famers. So, anyone from the 70s will do. Anyone from the 70s will do. So, all right, people. It's been fun. We're going to shut this one down for today, man. We appreciate you all being here. Again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time, Big B Daily Show. We are live on TikTok, live on YouTube. Make sure if you're on TikTok, please give us a follow and shoot it off. Share the live with other people. Tell somebody, tell a friend, tell them to come in tomorrow, man. Same thing on YouTube. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. TikTok people, click that YouTube link in my bio and come subscribe to Big B Sports Talk. We appreciate everybody being here. We'll come back tomorrow and hopefully do it better. Aloha.